Hi, BookTube. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and I went to the library again because I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. Um, Although I know in November there might be some plans of travel. I don't know yet, but I thought I would go ahead and go to the library this afternoon. I worked a lot this week, and I'm finally off. And of course, I'm off when my cold starts to get better, so I probably sound even more nasally right now. Um, but of course, I was working on the days when I was really, really crappy. Yesterday was a little bit of an improvement, but I was still like feeling like worried that I was gonna sneeze, and gross someone out, or someone was gonna panic me like, oh my god, do you have like COVID or something? Because I'm not like I don't. We tested and I was negative, and but I still wear a wore a mask at least to be considerate of others. And my mom was like, if anyone asks, just tell them, you have a cold and you did test, which we did. And um, but people are still very worried about COVID, and some of your cold symptoms are similar to the symptoms with COVID. But I didn't have any of the others. Like I didn't have a fever. I didn't have a lost sense of taste or smell. I can't think of the other symptoms. I just have the usual cold symptoms, but you never know. So we did test. But so I wasn't so sick that I couldn't go in, but I wanted to go home. Like because, I didn't want to have COVID, of course, but there was a part of me who wanted to have a reason to stay home because I was just so like feeling so crappy the past 2 days. And so now I'm perfectly fine. I'm not perfectly fine, but I'm only feeling a lot. I still am congested, but I'm a little bit better. So unfortunately, and already I'm already starting to feel that feeling you get when you're congested, and just hard to communicate because you can feel in the back of your throat as well as in your nose. That kind of feeling. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I wanted to make a video. I was hoping that my next video would be my book outlet order, because I bought from Book Outlet for the first time those Paper Mill Classics. I ended up getting 5 of them because I think I told you guys this before. There was on that site, and if you use it, you might know about it, that they say that you can get free shipping if you buy an order that's $35 or more. So my mom was just like, go ahead, buy 5 books. So because I think she also liked the editions. When I pointed them out to her, she thought they were very pretty, and she liked the feel of them, and was like, and I think that's the only reason, because she liked them, and she figured, well, if you're gonna buy them, buy a whole bunch of them, because that's my problem when I get books that are like a certain edition when it comes to classics. It's like I might only be able to get 1 or 2 versions of it. I've collected, quite a few of the Penguin, and then the Barnes and Noble. But that's been over a period of a long time, the last few years actually. But it was kind of nice to actually buy a bunch of books in an edition that I really love. I love all those. That's my biggest problem, is I can't decide which edition I love. So I have a lot of books in different editions. But not like more than one copy of the same book in a different edition. I don't have the space, and I'm not getting another shelf anytime soon. So, unless I get rid of all my DVDs, which that would give me extra shelf space, but I'm not going to, because I love movies too. So, and some of them I don't, I can't necessarily get access to on TV at the moment when I want to watch them. I'll also, well, first, before I show you the library books, let me talk about what I've been reading. I finished Wicked, as you guys know, and I think I told you guys. And I'm still trying to decide if I want to do a separate review, or just wait until the end of the month, because then if I do a separate review, there won't be a point in talking about it in my wrap up for September and October. And I don't know if I'm going to get enough. That was the other reason why I went to the library today, because I figured I could get some books from the library that are a little bit shorter. I know that's not the most important thing, but I still like to have at least a few books to talk about for each month. Um, I mean, I wouldn't have plenty of talk about because I have all the September books, but um, it'd be kind of nice to have at least more than a couple October books to talk about. So I might just wait and not do a review for Wicked, like either do a separate review after, or don't do a separate review and just talk about it a lot, because I don't know if I'll have a lot of books from October to talk about. But I finished that one, and then I went back to Bag of Bones, and of course it's taking a while before our main character Michael Noonan gets to the lake house. He keeps dreaming about it, and what's really cool is he keeps referencing the book Rebecca, and he keeps dreaming of the lake house where he and his wife who died used to go there during the summer, and he keeps dreaming about it, and it reminds him of the dreams that the main character Rebecca kept having, where she talks about in the beginning. The first sentence is, "I dreamed of Manderley again." So there's a comparison. So obviously Stephen King read that book, which I think is really cool, and he is kind of just going through the process of grief still, and really dealing with it. And we still haven't got to the whole scary part yet, where he, or the introduction to this, to the scary part, like as in he hasn't gone to the lake house yet. Which, like, on the one hand, I get a little impatient, but on the other hand, I can see why they need to build up the setup. I found some references to his other works, which I really like. There were references I sort of recognize, like they reference both The Dark Half and It, when he talks about Bill Denbrough, or William Denbrough. That's how. See, this is what I mean. It's doing it. It's already. I start talking and it does that thing where I feel like I feel it in my nose and in the back of my throat. So it makes it hard to talk. But anyway, so he talks about William Denbrough and his work, and I'm guessing this takes place after, because the original book, the movie adaptation, the most recent one, is up 10 years, so that the historical stuff takes place in the 80s. Then when they're kids, they grow up in the 80s, and then you get the early 2000s. And then the mini series from 1990, I want to say it upped it at least a little bit, because I don't get how the characters, although I've never been good with math, but I don't get how it's 1990 and the characters are they look like they're like 30 or 40. Well, maybe it could be. I don't know. I've never been really good at estimating numbers when it comes to numbers. So in that version, it's the 1950s, and that's in the book, it's 1958. So, but I understand for the modern adaptation, for the most recent adaptations, I think it was for the sake of not having to spend extra money to make it look like the 90s or the 80s, because I'm sure they would still have to spend a good amount of money. So, and this is late 90s, but anyway, this takes place in the late 90s. So, I'm guessing that the events of this book is right after the events when the Losers Clubs as adults defeat Pennywise. I think. I'm guessing. And then, like I said, they reference the Dark Half with, there's an author, and the main character is an author in that one, and it's the one with the author. He creates an alter ego and a pseudonym of, that can write a lot darker stories, and he ends up, he decides to kill off the character and stop writing those books, but then it backfires on him as the character becomes a living reality and starts killing people who helped him to stop writing those stories. Like, that character just did not want to die. So he goes after him, and that's what that book is about, The Dark Half. And this one references the author in that the regular guy, not this alter ego, but not the alter ego, but the Tad Beaumont. And then I just saw a reference, which I have not read the book yet, but Insomnia, because I don't know if it was on Goodreads or maybe even on the book itself, where they recommend, they talk about there's references to the Dark Tower series, and they recommend you read that first. So I'm rereading that series. I just reread at the end of last year, I reread the first 2 books, and I plan on reading the 3rd book, and ideally the 4th book. Like, that's what I would like to do. I like to do, like, what I did last year, which I read those first 2 books in November and December, or both in November. Actually, I read both of them in November, but that's because The Gunslinger is the shortest book in the series. But I'm going to read those. I might read those in November like I did last year. And they say, for Insomnia, you might want to read some of the Dark Tower first. Because there's references. Well, I did recognize the reference for Insomnia because he's talking to this character, Ralph Roberts, who is the main character in Insomnia. And the only reason why I recognized it is because he works at the hospital at the Red Cross, and he notices Michael hasn't been coming by lately to give blood, and he has an A blood type, which is, I guess, a very valuable blood type. And so Mike assures him he's gonna come back. And then he's like, everything going all right? I only ask because you look tired. If it's insomnia, I can sympathize, believe me. And then this is Mike's thoughts. He did have the look of insomniac, I thought. Too wide around the eyes somehow. But he was also a man in his mid to late 70s. And I don't think anyone gets that far without showing it. Stick around a little while. Life maybe only jabs at your cheeks and eyes. Stick around for a long while and you end up looking like Jacob LaMotta after a hard 15. So I figured that. So I looked up, after I read that, I was like, is that a reference to Insomnia? And so I looked it up, the book Insomnia. So I looked up the book, and which I actually have it, so I could have looked at the book, but I went on Goodreads, and I think maybe I did look at the book, but anyway, that's not important. So either way, I looked it up, and the character's name is the same guy, which I think is so cool. How Stephen King, he connects his books. They're all different stories, but he connects them. They all take place in the same places, and all the characters know each other. Half of them know each other. Because half his characters are from Castle Rock, and then half of them are from Derry, with a handful of exceptions here and there that are not from, and the Dark Tower links them all together. So, I don't know. I would have to double check on that, if I could get away with reading Insomnia, first, but I don't know. I would love to read them in order, all of his books in order, in publication order. At least read the ones I want to read, because there's some of them I'm just not interested in. Again, I always say I'm just not interested in the Mr. Mercedes trilogy. Although, that's funny, considering what I'm reading now. But, I can't remember who it was. I cannot remember her channel name, but there is a booktuber that's a huge Stephen King fan. And she's been reading them in publication order. But she hasn't put a video in a while. So, I could picture her, but I cannot remember her name. She's curly hair, long curly hair. And she does, actually now it's not long anymore, it's short, it's super short. But, she always dyes it. But I cannot remember her name. It's gonna come to me, after I'm done filming, this still will pop into my head, her name. But, anyway, So, which I love the editions that she has of Stephen King books. She has a certain edition that doesn't, those editions aren't out there anymore. I mean, you could probably find them at a used bookstore, but I like how, I love the different editions I've seen of a lot of the editions I've seen of his books. Like these with this, like my copy of It has this too, but I think that's really cool and really interesting. I guess if you become a big enough author who writes a lot of books, you could potentially get different editions. Like I saw at the bookstore in Asheville, there were all those white editions of Neil Gaiman's books. And then, like Alana Russian Lyncher has new editions that I would like to collect. That's so hard to do, though, because I don't have the space, like I said, and I have to decide which editions I like. And there's just so many different editions. And then there's some of them that I absolutely love, like like those cloth-bound editions that it's recommended only get them for show because they can fade. And, I don't always like reading hardback books, but I couldn't help myself. I bought them anyway, and I really liked them. I'm still gonna read them because I can't have, as I said when I mentioned buying the War and Peace one, it's like, I don't have the room for multiple copies, but I don't want to, and then at the same time, I'm like, I still want to buy that copy of it. I like it. So, of course, I could spend, I spend my money how I want, as long as I don't go overboard and don't, But anyway, so we haven't even got to the most creepy aspect is just the dreams he has. Mike has. And like I said, I think it's cool that he's referencing Manderley, because the book Rebecca. But yeah, I'm guessing that chapter 6 we will finally get him to, he will finally get to Sarah laughs. That's what they call it. So, and he's also having writer's block, which I imagine is absolutely terrifying for a writer, especially when you have your agent and publishers breathing down your neck. I mean, he did the smart thing, though. He has backup books that he hasn't published, which I guess is the best thing to do for an author, is that just in case have backups, in case you have, like, writer's block, or you're running out of ideas. Which I wonder if Stephen King himself does that. I mean, he does have a lot of short story collections, and he's been writing since he was a teenager. And that actually reminds me of when I listened to the audiobook of On Writing, that, the encounter with one of his teachers or his guidance counselor or whatever, saying that, basically saying his work is crap or whatever. It made me, I wonder if he was inspired by that incident for when Bill Dunbroth, when he's in college and his work, he's told by his teacher that his work it's a similar thing where he's told that his work is crap. And he ends up publishing it and getting a lot of money from it. Which I'm sure someone like that would be like a teacher who, thinks that way, is like, oh, of course, you traded, all for money, and you're not doing serious art. And it's like, it's getting hard to think about money that way when you end up having a nice house or like somewhere to live, and you have a few and food and water and some nice things for, keep you entertained, keep you happy and entertained, like. But anyway, yeah, so, sorry, But anyway, so that's what's going on with Bag of Bones. I'm going to read a little bit more today. Now, of course, here's the part I did think about how now that I'm starting bringing home library books, it's like, oh, I started those other 2 books, and I hope I get them done. So next, the other book. So this is why I thought was kind of interesting that I said I probably won't read Mr. Mercedes because I'm actually reading The Devil in the White City, a true crime novel. And what I really like true crime because it's basically like reading fiction. It's like, it's like reading crime fiction. And it's just, this is a good time to read it, and I'm like in the right mood for it because it's October, spooky season, and it's, a crime story, so that just fits the spooky season. And it's basically is this guy who went on a killing spree at the World's Fair in Chicago in the 30s. And so we get the story of the guys who worked on the World's Fair. And I guess there was a lot of people who wanted to host the World's Fair. Like France, France had done it first. And it was like, well, we can't have France showing up America. So we want to do it. And there was this whole debate on which city was going to host it. Like St. Louis wanted to do it. New York, of course, wanted to do it. And there was one other random one. I cannot remember. And then Chicago. And Chicago, I guess, is kind of not exactly the underdog. The other one that I mentioned, the other one that I don't remember what city it was. But that one, I guess, the one I can't think of is probably more the underdog than Chicago. But I guess Chicago won. And so it won an award. There's an Edgar Allan Poe award, I guess. But anyway, and I haven't got far, obviously. I don't know if you can tell. It's one of those where we start with one of our main characters, or one of the main guys that's still alive. He's on the Olympic, which is the sister ship to Titanic. And of course we know, if you know your history, that one's also not going to do so hot either, I don't think. I personally have to double check on my history, because I think that one also went down too. Because I think that was the ship that Violet Jessup was on. I think. I don't know. It would be cool if that woman, if she was mentioned. But we're focused on the 1930s, because the guy is looking back. Or not 1930s, 1830s. I'm sorry, I got the timelines right. 18. Oh, no, wait, 1893. Sorry. Oh, sorry. It's 1893. When the World's Fair was. Sorry, I'm sure a lot of you are probably going to correct me in the comments. So apologize. I meant 1893. But it just sounded really cool when I first saw it. And, Reagan from Baru's projects, I know she and Reddit, she's kind of what made me decide to finally get it. After watching her video, I don't know if I watched it the night before or that morning, but it was before I went to the roast office, and I remember her watching her video at some point. So when I spotted this, I was like, let me just get it. And try it out. And I really like it. The chapters are very easy to read. Like true crime, like I said, it reads like an actual narrative. So it's really interesting so far. And obviously it's about a serial killer, so it's kind of funny that I was just saying that I probably won't read the Mr. Mercedes series, which I think that character is a serial killer. But, it definitely depends. I mean, maybe, never say never. Maybe one day I will get inspired to read that particular trilogy by King. But, anyway, this is so far really intriguing. And I remember that in Supernatural mentioned this Holmes guy, the killer himself. I think it's H.H. Holmes. I remember in Supernatural, there was an episode where they referenced this person. I don't know what was going on in the episode, but anyway, so I'm reading that. Well, you guys know I'm also reading The Witching Hour, but I haven't picked that up. I read a little bit yesterday where Michael and Rowan finally meet. but I didn't get that far because I got sidetracked by looking at some videos on BookTube. So, and like I said, I wanted to go ahead and read Devil in the White City because I'm trying to get into the habit of reading more nonfiction, and I wanted to do it before Nonfiction November, so I'll get inspired to read at least one nonfiction. Although in Nonfiction November, I think I need to pick up the Walt Disney biography, which is a little bit longer, so I might only be reading that along with some fiction. But now let's finally get to the point of this video and show you the library books. There's only 3. And I tried to look for some Victorian literature, and yes, there are some Bronte. There are only 2 though. The most famous ones. I'm sure you can guess what they are. And then they had a lot of Charles Dickens' work. Some of Charles Dickens, but I read all of them, or except for the collection of short stories, I started to read those 2 years ago and was like not feeling it because I prefer Dickens' longer works. But anyway, but I did find some Dorothy L. Sayers, which I've heard a lot about. I don't remember which books too. I think Simon from Savage Rage just talked about Dorothy Sayers, and the book Castle. I cannot think of her name. I have one of her videos up on the screen, but I don't remember her name. And maybe some other people, but this is the collection of classic mysteries. I thought it meant that it was a collection, but like in a collection of some of short stories by her. But then I opened it, and it's no, the whole book is this story. It looks like, yeah, the whole book is this story. So I don't know why it says on here, the complete collection of mystery classics. This must be in a special edition of these books. Maybe that's why. But Strong Poison is this one, and it's number 5 in the Lord Peter Wimsey series. So there were 3 of her books there. There was this one, and then something Taylor, the Taylors. I cannot remember, but I was trying to decide which one, and then I realized it was a series, and then so I was like, okay, which one is first? So this one comes before the other one that I looked at. And there's another Dorothy Sayers there, which looks a little bit longer. So I went with the ones that look a little shorter. And I was going to bring both of them home, but I was like, oh, well, I have some of my own. So I believe, according to, it doesn't have, sorry, I hope that me sniffling doesn't gross you guys out, but it does not have any, back description, any description or anything, but I looked up on Goodreads, and I think it's basically about this famous author, and, she writes stories about poisons, I guess, and, she ends up one of her lovers ends up murdered by poison. So they suspect that she's the killer, and Lord Peter Wimsey gets involved, and because he believes that she's innocent. And I believe that Masterpiece Theater or BBC Mystery, BBC Mystery has a collection of her books. Her novels have been like the adaptations of her novels, of some of her novels. So because I remember on my North and South DVD, there's, in the second part, there's a preview for mysteries, BBC Theater, Mystery Theater, and I think some of her books, Lord Peter Wimsey stories, were advertised on there. But so really the only reason why I picked this one up first was because it's number 5. It comes before the other one, which I cannot remember what the other one's called. It's like Taylor's something. the Taylors, something like that. I wish they had given a back description, like a description or something, but I was able to look it up on Goodreads, so it sounds interesting. I think it takes place in the 40s. So this is the it's not Victorian literature, but it kind of made me think of it a little bit. I have a very up and down relationship with mysteries and detective stories, so I might like it, I might not. I have liked Agatha Christie stories, so maybe I'll like those ones. Okay, so the next one. Okay, so I kind of, as you guys know, I was kind of in a witchy mood. Witchy mood. The first week of October. So I decided to get this book. And I don't know if this was the book. I don't think this is the book that. I don't think they've talked. I don't know if this is one of the books that they've talked about on BookTube, but it's a cozy witch story. I'm gonna go and read the back. Miss Charlotte Pettifer belongs to a secret league of women skilled in the subtle arts. That is to say, although it must never be said, witchcraft. The Wiccan League strives to improve the world in small ways. Using magic, they tighten, correct, and manipulate according to their notions of what is proper, entirely unlike those in reprobates in the mysterious society. When the long-lost amulet of Black Beryl is discovered, it is up to Charlotte, as the future leader of the League, to make sure that this powerful talisman does not fall into the wrong hands. Therefore, it is the most unfortunate when she crosses paths with Alex O'Reilly, a pirate who is known Mr. Darcy. With all the world scrambling after the amulet, Alex and Charlotte join forces to steal it together. If only they could keep their pickpocketing hands to themselves. If Alex is not careful, he might just steal something else, such as Charlotte's heart. So it's I thought it was it's a witchy book. It's fun and cutesy, a little bit of romance. I don't read this kind of stuff, but I thought, like I said, I was kind of in a witchy mood, so I thought I'd get it. So I got this one, and then the last one I brought home from the library to read is a collection of short stories, In the Shadow of Edgar Allan Poe, Classic Tales of Terror from 1816 to 1914. So you have Ambrose Bierce, Joseph Sheridan, Lee Fanu. Oh, is that one name? Joseph Sheridan, Lee Fanu, Theobald Gautier, Charlotte Perkins Gilman, Arthur Conan Doyle, and Lafcadio Hearn, M.R. James, and Bram Stoker, and many more. So I saw Poe and I was like, ooh. So let's see. We have The Sandman by E.T. Hoffman, The Mummy's Foot, Theophile Gautier, An Account of Strange Disturbance in Ongar Street, The Upper Berth, His Unconquerable Enemy, In New England Days, The Yellow Wallpaper. Oh, yay! Yay, The Yellow Wallpaper. Emmy reads. It's one of her favorite short stories. I'm glad that one's in here. Because I had thought about reading it. I think I have read it before in one of those big anthology binds-ups that they have at school, those hardback ones that you study in school. I think I read it in there, but it's been a long time. I barely remember it. So I've been wanting to reread it every time Emmy Reads talks about it. So yeah, I'm glad that's in here. Then we have Desiree's Baby, by Kate Chopin. I don't know if, because I know I have a collection of Kate Chopin stories, but I don't know if that one's in there. The Yellow Sign. Let's see what else is in here. Tragedy of Bones. Oh, is that the same George MacDonald? That might be the same guy who wrote The Goblin, The Princess and the Goblin. A Night of Horror, The Corpse Rider, The Leather Funnel. That's Conan Doyle, so I don't know if that has anything to do with Sherlock Holmes. The Shadows of the Wall, Lost Hearts, Moonlit Road, The Spider, The Woman with the Hood, Easter Egg, The Squaw. Okay, and then that's it. The Squaw is the last one. And that's by Bram Stoker. It's one of his works, so I thought this would be fun. It's a collection, It's a collection of short stories that aren't Edgar Allan Poe related. Oh, and it's due on Halloween, actually. So I'll have to look at my calendar and see what days I'm off, so I can have some of these to return. But I think I probably want to get the Witch's Story and this one done first, so I can turn, because the other one's just a regular mystery, and I can read those in November. But focus on these ones, and these are also short stories anyway, so maybe I'm wondering if I should read The Yellow Wallpaper first. I mean, this kind of collection I normally read in order, but since I've got it from the library, maybe I won't. Although I read the Dickens short stories in order, so I do not know what I will do. But I should probably, like I said, read this, and then the League of Gentlewomen. Oh, there's a fly. Of Gentlewomen Witches. And then I can always, it's okay if I read the other one in November. So that is my library haul. I don't know if I squished that bug or that fly or not, but hopefully my next video, I mean, if I have to go to work if I get it on a work day, even if I'm home, because I probably won't get it until I get home anyway, and it might be late. So I don't know if I'll film or not. I would love to get it tomorrow, because I know I'm off tomorrow. I do have a weekend off, an actual weekend off, not as in Friday and Saturday. I think Friday and Saturday I'm off. Not Sunday though. I could do it then, but I don't have any patience, so I might open them anyway and just show you guys the books instead of doing the book haul. But I mean, instead of doing the unboxing. But I mean, I could always still film. It's just I have no patience. But yeah, so the lesson here is, if you order books from Book Outlet, don't order them on Thursday or Friday, because they don't count Saturday and Sunday as delivery days. Nope, I didn't squish the fly after all. I just heard them flying around. They don't count, they only count business days as delivery days. And then, of course, there's the holiday season is the worst. So, I would not recommend ordering books on Thursdays and Fridays. Unless you can wait, unless you don't mind. I mean, I'm definitely one of those people that I like the anticipation of waiting, but at the same time, and it drives me crazy too, so, so I'm cool, deep down I'm cool with ordering online, because having to wait, but then it also drives me crazy too. Okay, so if you guys like this video, be sure to give a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, click the bell notification below if you want to be notified when I post my videos, and I will talk to you all later. Alright, bye!